Welcome to the Grow Your Money podcast, where we're on a mission to change how we talk about money. Our fireside chats are the heart of our show, bringing the energy and excitement of in-person events straight to your ears. We aim to connect you with inspiring voices and stories that matter, sharing relatable experiences and insights that will transform your financial life. Everyone deserves access to practical financial knowledge, so we're making money conversations relatable by inviting guests from all walks of life to share their real-life experiences with money. But this isn't your typical money show. We look at the emotional, psychological, and cultural factors that shape our relationship with money. So hit subscribe and join us for another episode of the Grow Your Money podcast.
Welcome to this episode of the Grow Your Money Challenge. Really excited to have two amazing men with me tonight. First up, you, Alan. You've been amazing. You're always behind the cameras. So I'm really excited. A bit of revenge going on here. That we're sitting.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
And Kim, we've been on a very long and amazing and tearful business journey. Today we are going to talk about something we don't talk about often, entrepreneurship and failing at it sometimes and what that looks like, you know. But I'll let you guys introduce yourselves first. Alan?
My name's Alan. I run a company called Product Forge. We're an events company. The company's changed quite a bit since I founded it in 2014, which we were an events company that was focused on organizing hackathons, and we've had to adapt over COVID. And mainly now we focus on video and live streaming. And yeah.
Wow. And I have to say the service is awesome. I keep saying to Alan, he's stuck with me to his death because I'm not using another videographer that you're alive, right? So all the quality, everything you see behind the Grow Your Money Challenge podcasts and the vlogs we run is down to Alan. And I think your workmanship is fantastic. And what about you, Kim?
Yeah, so I'm Kim, actually full name's Kimani. I'm an engineer. I do software bits. I've launched two startup companies. One of which dealt with blockchain technology. That was a partnership with quite a few people, and another company based in Scotland, which we'll chat more about shortly, that tried to address what I still think is a major issue with people passing away and having their property arrangements in place when the time comes. Throughout the journey, there came a point where, you know, I took a decision to maybe focus on something else, but we can explore that a bit more. But it was an interesting journey, and there's so much to learn, so much to sort of, on reflection, take away, and make great friends like Tina in the process. So yeah, that's me.
Oh, good. And you come from an entrepreneurial family. In fact, your parents run an amazing African restaurant in Glasgow called Calabash, which is amazing. So if anyone wants any African food, I'm just putting it out there that you guys have very great hospitality.
Yeah. So I think my parents are particularly entrepreneurial. They've done so many different things over the years. I think when I was a child, we had a fruit juice factory, and then we used to make candles and soaps, and they had a bath, and then
a bath.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And some hire cars and a school. So I think my parents are serial entrepreneurs, but I think the difference with them is, I think they do it for the buzz, I think.
Okay.
And I think when it starts taking off, the excitement goes away and they move on to the next idea. I'm hopeful that that's not what's happening with me. but you know, we cannot rule it out. But so I think latest ventures, hospitality. So restaurant in Glasgow serving the finest African food in Scotland. And the other products we provide are actually free of charge. So good atmosphere, great place to make friends, hang out, socialize. Yeah, we don't charge you for that, but the food is exquisite. So next time you're in Glasgow, check it out.
Totally.
Let us know what you think.
Oh, nice. So I'm keen to dig in and just, talk a bit about your entrepreneurial journeys. Alan, what's your entrepreneurial journey been like?
Yeah, so you mentioned your parents. I think it was always a big thing for me as well, because my dad started a business after he left the Navy, and my mum has been self-employed for a long time as well. She ran a shop. She does art, and I think that has a huge impact. Very fortunate, to have her parents have always been kind of business focused, business minded, and that's definitely kind of rubbed off. I guess I just assumed that that's what I would do. So that is quite a powerful thing, I guess. I started my first business when I left high school early. I think I left just after. I think I just turned 16. I was just so done with it. I just left as soon as I could.
As soon as you were allowed to.
Yeah. I think did you say before? I think that you started uni at 17. Yeah. So I did the same. I did the same thing. I did the same. So in a previous episode, I talked about sort of student loans and stuff. I did exactly the same thing. Blew my student loan very quickly, and then decided to drop out, and managed to do all of that before I'd even turned 18. Wow. And then started a business doing web design and development. So that was my first. Yeah, my first
web design.
Just web design. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Kim, what about your entrepreneurial journey?
It's funny, Alan mentioned the Navy. So when I was in university, my dream was to join the Navy. I think having seen my parents in entrepreneurship for a long time, it kind of put me off, because I realized that it was a lot of hard work. There was no such thing as time off. It just never stopped. It was constant. So what I wanted for myself was to join the Navy, travel the world, and sort of like the whole exercise discipline is kind of you play sports all day and then you go hang out with your friends. So that's what I wanted to do. But I went into, they call it the Admiralty Interview Board. So this is a 3-day rigorous assessment, and you write essays, you build like bridges, you do teamwork, you go to the pub, and then they observe how you interact. So unfortunately, I was not successful at my AIB, and the advice was like, come back in 12 months. So in that 12 months, I spent some time with my parents, and they sort of started slowly sort of persuading me, you could help us out with this business and that. And I helped them out, kept a good distance, never got sucked in, because that's what happens in a family. But you get sucked in. So I never got sucked in, so I did other work. By the time the year passed and it was time to go back and redo the assessment, I'd started, sort of noticing other things in life. There's a lot of conversation about cryptocurrency and how it could change the world. I was just really curious, and so tried to sort of make small investments. But there was a realization that if this is going to change the world, I don't want to be an investor. I want to be in it, in the center of it. Yeah. But then a lot of advice of how to be in it was coming from, people on YouTube, bloggers. And it was just a sensation that, these guys know a little bit more than me. But actually, how can I know that the opinion they're expressing is well researched, valid, or is it just a pub conversation?
Yes.
Just that it's on YouTube.
Yes, a YouTube pub conversation, and there's many of those.
So I think at that point I thought, I need to find out who knows the most about cryptocurrencies and how you can build a business on top of them. And so I looked around, and there was a course offered. It was a financial technology course. So this course was offered by Oxford. So I thought, these guys will know what's going on. So I went and paid for the course. And I think, to be fair, the course was absolutely incredible. So during the course, on day one, they say to us, well, that's your team. You'll be a group of 5. And what you guys have to do is come up with a business idea, and every assignment you get will be based on how to advance that idea into a viable business.
So a bit like a hackathon, like the hackathons that we see, or
It's maybe not. We weren't so focused on the product. I think that the focus was on, trying to get to a fundable stage.
yeah.
So getting a good understanding of your product, your model, your market, financial projections, and the outcome of it was to be able to pitch your idea to a panel of investors who may or may not decide to push it forward. And I think on the first day, they'd say to us, blockchain technology is not Bitcoin. Blockchain technology is an enabler for so many other things that you can do. So the challenge is you go and think about what you can change using blockchain technology and be the first to do that. So we sat in a group, and I think everyone had an idea, sort of change this and change that. I think ideas were things like, we can track the authenticity of items through the supply chain, sort of like, if it comes from Kenya, when was it harvested? We can mint. But then there was a lady who ended up becoming a very good friend, and I think she pitched the idea of what if there was a smart contract to execute your will when you pass away, such that it detected the registration of your death, automatically transferred your assets to the people you notified. And there was a conversation about, probate fees and what those can look like. So it tends to be a percentage of your estate. So if your estate is 100K, it could be up to 3% of that. So all of a sudden, I think the narrative changed from like, why are we trying to optimize people buying milk with Bitcoin when we could optimize just one transaction in your life, but it's the biggest one.
And that's going to come to everyone.
Yeah, it's inevitable. It's huge. It's so inefficient. And that was it. We were absolutely sort of on fire. I've just never been so excited as I was on that day. And we spent the next 12 weeks refining the concept, building it. And I think after about 4 to 5 months, we had great pitch deck, great team, great finances, projections, model. It was time to go. The only challenge was that the idea of pitching this business to a panel was not something that the university provided. The idea was to get you ready to find your own investors to pitch these to.
Into the big bad world.
So I should have read the small print in hindsight. But but yeah, so that's how the journey started.
Wow.
And so we had a great team. Team was distributed across countries. We had
So once you created this in the unique setting,
yes,
you then decided to go and take it further. So you leave the course now and come into.
Yeah. So at the end of the course, there's a natural question, which is, of the group you've put this together with, is, do you guys actually want to do this?
Yeah.
And I think in a group of 6, 5 said yes. And working with this team for the 14 to 16 weeks had been so it's just incredible. It's just such great minds, inspiration. So we had people from Australia, we had people in Dubai, we had people in California. Wow. It just felt like, if I was making an investment, these are the guys that invest in.
People.
I just need to make sure the investors also see. The one thing that at the time we maybe hadn't factored in is that the environment in the school is extremely empowering, and it's kind of like built to sort of really motivate you to do the very best you can. But there's the real world's just less nice. So, in the real world, there's just a lot more parameters to take into account. So you don't get a good pitch deck and you get 80%, and that's a good day. No, an 80% on your pitch deck as a mark in class does not mean very much in the real world.
Yes.
And so, we left university and we spent 4 years working on this idea. So we invested our own money into the company. We had some friends and family make some investments into the company. We found a team, an offshore team that built the product for us. Had a lot of engagement with different organizations. I think the Scottish landscape for startup companies is particularly, it's a good place to start a company. There's a lot of support. So we managed to get different pots of funding, a lot of support as well. And I think throughout that 3-year journey, we had so much belief in ourselves, in the idea. It just, I think it was impossible for us to iterate, if you like, just because we're the dream team. We have a great idea. We've just come from Oxford. What do you mean we need to change? You need to change.
Wow. So you were not willing to change the idea that you had formulated, no matter that the feedback was coming back telling you other things.
Absolutely. So that we received a lot of feedback, but when we left Oxford, we were looking to raise £2 million. And I think the advice on the street was, how much do you want again?
For 3% equity.
It was actually 1.5. And I think a lot of times you'd pitch the idea in the team and they'd be like, great, everything looks good. And then the conversation about money would come up and they'd automatically think, you're not in the real world, are you? You're just not. And then we thought, you're not the right guy.
Yeah.
You can't see the vision.
Yes.
You're thinking small, we're thinking big. And we went through that for a period of time, but the credit to the course, the amount of self-belief you take out of that course is almost impossible to shake off. There's nothing that can stop you.
Wow. You're selling this course, man.
It really is. It's incredible. And I think if you have a team of 5 people who are equally fired up, that can put you in a space where you're ready to change the world. And you're changing it regardless whether the world wants to be changed or not. But I think, after a few years sort of working on the idea, there's this saying, and I think it actually came from my dad, and I think what he was saying is, sometimes there's a gap in the market, but is there a market in that gap? And you see, sort of startup and entrepreneurial activity is, predominantly a sales job. You're selling the concept, you're selling the idea to new people joining the team. But if you had to choose one thing to sell, let's flip it around. If we were to think of the really difficult things to sell, then actually death is right up there. It's not easy to sell death. You'll never walk into a room
and be like, this is
and
the
talk
day.
about death, and everyone feels like, you know what, in 10 years this guy is going places. They'll be like, well, am I gonna be here in 10 years? So it's like, it just kind of like evokes the wrong set of emotions in people.
Yes.
And it's not the fact that the problem's not real or that the solution doesn't work, but it's just not the most attractive product you're selling.
The snazziest thing that you
And especially when you're asking for a vast amount of money with no product to demonstrate. So we really worked hard to sell this concept, and actually credit to the team in that we had plenty of buyers, just not the scale of buyer that we were looking for.
You're listening to the Grow Your Money podcast. We'll be right back after giving our partners a well-deserved shout-outs. Calling all partners, join the Grow Your Money Challenge. We're excited to present our incredible sponsors who believe in empowering individuals and communities on their financial journey. Discover their services and join us in creating a brighter financial future. Featuring the Royal Bank of Scotland, your trusted banking partner with a rich heritage in comprehensive financial services. Explore their online banking at www.rbs.co.uk. Gift Round. Make group gifting a breeze. Celebrate special occasions together with colleagues, friends, and family. Create a gift round at giftround.co.uk and show your appreciation. Radiant and Brighter. Promoting diversity and economic participation in migrant communities. Get involved with their innovative practices at radiantandbrighter.com. Rooted Finance. Struggling with debt or financial exclusion? Rooted Finance provides free money and debt advice services to put you on the path to financial freedom. Join the Grow Your Money Challenge in this transformative journey toward financial growth and resilience. Visit moneymatics.com to get involved today.
So after a few years, I met someone who kind of said to me that, if you've been trying to sell debt for 4 years, just imagine what you could do with an attractive product. And I think at that point I sat back and thought, yeah, what if I change the product? And that's how the decision to pause Lipem and look at the skill set, look at the team, and ask what could we do if the product was less depressing. I still believe today that, the educating the customer piece is a vast barrier because customers do not want to be educated on this topic. But that does not mean that the problem's not there. So in a sense, the job to be done to succeed in that market is to educate the customer. And educating the customer and kind of like sort of maybe dealing with some of the negative and sad connotations, that's probably not the right job for me to be doing, but it could be the right job for someone. But ultimately, people invest in startup companies because they have a lot of hope, a lot of positive outlook on the future. This is gonna work. And there's just something about death that kind of like really sort of dampens that feeling. Or it could be there's something about how I was describing it that was dampening the spirit. But
did you track the age of the investors that were interested in relation to?
So we had a wide range of investors. We pitched to a wide range of investors, and the feedback varied. So we had feedback surrounding if you can gain traction, then we can help you. If you can have partnerships with, various types of organizations, charities, law firms, that kind of thing, we can help you. But I think the thing no one wanted to say was that those people that you need to engage with are the people you need to educate. And there's the age is a critical point because you've got to think of who's tech savvy. Probably they're young. Who's worried about dying? It's the old. So the demographic that actually cares most about this product doesn't want to do it on an app. And the ones that want to do it on an app don't want to do this thing on the app. So, it's
a push and pull.
It's a tricky situation. But it's not. It could be a problem that we should have seen, we should have anticipated. But sometimes we do look at technology and its capabilities, and sometimes are under the impression that can compensate for human behavior, but actually humans are what they are, irrational sometimes, emotional. And so just because it makes sense doesn't mean it's going to work. That's one of the lessons we took away.
Alchemy. Wow, what a journey. Alan, do you want to share about your past startup as well?
Yeah, I guess so. So that first business I had out of I was about to say out of uni, but out of dropping out of uni after 6 months.
Was a 6-month gig.
That was I don't know. I actually wanted to have a gap year. I went out of high school and I want to go on a gap year. My parents said, "That's cool. Where are you going to go?" And I was like, "I think I might want to go to Russia." And they're like, "Interesting. How are you going to pay for that?" I'm like, oh, I guess I can't go to Russia then. That's not going to happen. So they bundled me off to uni, kind of, I think, just to get me out of the house. Like they were like, you'll figure this stuff out. So yeah, I'd done some web design just sort of for fun stuff. So I thought I could make a business out of this. I got some support from the Princess Scottish Youth Business Trust, which is cool. At the time, you could just walk into a branch and speak to a business manager and ask to open a business account, and you would be able to speak to a branch manager there who had a chat with you about the business and decided if it was a go or not. And they heard a lot about what, websites are going to be the next big thing. People need websites now, so they thought, yeah, this seems legit, so we'll give you a business account. I didn't really enjoy it though. Like 6 months in, I was like, I don't know.
But I just clients.
I was getting clients, and I just sort of, persisted with it, and eventually, I'm sort of curtailing the story a wee bit, but I think I sort of reached a conclusion that what I wanted was to have built something that I could just sort of sell, like a SaaS product or something like this. Yes. And I just wanted something that, I was doing the tech side of things, but I didn't want to be doing sort of websites and e-commerce stuff and all the rest. I wasn't interested. So I found we were exhibiting at a trade show or something, and there was a company that was selling hotel booking software, and the sales guy approached me, and it was like, "Oh, you guys do web design? We need like an online booking thing for our software. If you guys could write something like that, then we could bundle you into our software." So like our business has like the exclusive sales rights for the software for the UK. We've got this long list of hotels that are using the software, and I was like, cool, this is my out. I write the software, and then I'm going to get exclusive access to all their clients. And it all seemed good on paper, and I just went all in on it, and I stopped even trying to get any other work or finding any other clients or anything like this. Big risk without any contract with this company or anything like this, just their word that they would do this. So naive. And got the software working, and then I was like, okay, cool. We need some trial hotels. We need to, we need some signups here. We need some people like testing the software and giving us some feedback. And I was like, can I get some introductions?
Wait, had you been in touch with them throughout the process of building the software?
Yeah.
And how long had this taken?
It took about 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't ridiculous. And I know a lot of the other sort of competing. We did a bit of, we did research about what else was out there, and a lot of the hotel booking software is just stuff that ran on a PC. So that was kind of the challenge, was writing a piece of software that you could go onto the website and get real-time booking information for that particular hotel. If they were doing stuff, say through Visit Scotland, they would do a block booking, and that was really inefficient. For us to be able to actually reach into the booking software and find that. So it was fantastic, and it worked, and from that point of view, it was great. But then I can't remember the day. I remember, so they did give us a couple of hotels. We got it up and running, and then I remember the day that I was like, okay, right, we've tested it, right? We need to like really go for this now. And could I get a list of hotels? And I remember the day that they faxed this list through, because that was still a thing, kind of. I was still a bit, that's a bit weird, but okay, fax it, that's fine. You got it, and that kind of list. And this fax was coming through, and I was like, oh, that's weird. There's a lot of repetition in this list of hotels. And then I started just went to the top, started calling down the list. The first hotel was like, no, we don't use the software anymore. Awful software, hate it. Sacked it off ages ago. Like, all right, next hotel down, same story. Next hotel down was, oh yeah, we're running version, the version previous, which I hadn't integrated against. We don't want to upgrade, it's far too expensive. And of all of the hotels that were still using the software, which were very few, all of them were using a previous version of the software, and they just wanted to kind of use me as leverage to get them to upgrade. But most of them were like, far too expensive. We're just going to go on to a competitor project, a competitor system. So it was ridiculous. I never got this. I look back on it and I'm like, how could I be so foolish to just go for it just on someone say so? But I did, and we were way out on a limb at that point. So I had to wind things up. To be fair, I mean, I was early 20s, so I mean, I was stupid. I don't know, but yeah.
What did you do with the software?
It was so kind of bespoke to kind of that initially. So I mean, I had such high hopes for this because I thought even if we just get enough hotels signed up and they would pay us an integration fee, then they would pay us like a subscription. But the great thing is we would have access to the availability. If I get enough hotels on the system, then I can do my own overall booking site for this, and then look for integrations with other software. And then we've got a booking portal for, if we get enough hotels in a particular area or something like this, or go to some of because some of areas will have like a marketing site, like a regional tourism site or something like this, and we can say we can put the hotel availability onto it. So I mean, from that point of view, it all made total sense. Like none of that was silly, but not checking, not getting a contract and not checking the hotels, the actual list, asking for that upfront. Yeah.
Oh, so how do you go from that? So the list isn't checking out. All the clients are saying no. You have no contract with the person you've been basically working for 6 months. I'm assuming no money has exchanged hands.
Nope.
At this point. So you go back to them and say, this isn't working.
Yeah, they're like, too bad, so sad. Wow. If these guys upgrade, then you obviously get the gig. We'll bundle you into like any signups. And I was like, you sort of said to me that you were getting like 2 or 3 signups a month. Yes. And they're like, yeah. Well, we not had any this month. It's been a slow month, and it's just like it was all nonsense. Yes. Wow. It was just nothing to. I was just absolutely just swindled. Yeah.
How long did you get from that point to winding down, and what does winding down look like?
Pretty well. It's horrible. It was just like, right, I'm done. I'm out. Unfortunately, I was operating as a sole trader, so that means.
Wow. And support for winding down, because that's something that I just wonder about. Like Kimani, you mentioned that there's a good ecosystem in Scotland for supporting you when you're starting up, and I mean, you were in this bubble of great support in the university, and that. What about in this case when you're trying to wind down?
Nothing. No. I think that, so that's the interesting thing, is that the organizations that support you when you're starting up, and certainly even like whether it's during the process or after the process, they're not interested. They don't follow up either. There's no sort of follow up as to, well, was there something that we could have done that would have supported you? What are the lessons learned here? You failed once as an entrepreneur, you're going to try again. Let's stay in touch. There was none of that at all, especially the bank. I mean, the bank's only interested in how you're going to pay the overdraft back. That's it. Like they're only interested in that side of things. But yeah, the other sort of support organizations, Business Gateway, all of that. There was no kind of follow up.
Oh gosh, and we were talking about collateral damage of just that situation. You've spent 6 months of your life doing this. You're literally back to scratch. Like how do you even navigate that? That I think that's for both of you. How do you go through that? Because it's just, in my case, I just always wonder when you even know to say no, to say, this is it, I'm done,
So whether it's, the personal, I've been sort of resisting saying the word bankruptcy, but I'll just sort of say it. So the personal route is quite different to if you're running a limited company. Personal route is completely surreal. What you do is at the time, you would go to the local court, you'd ask them for a form, you would fill out some stuff. I declare myself bankrupt, pay £40 because you need to pay to declare yourself bankrupt, hand over the form, and that's it. Your problems for the moment are over, and that's it. You just walk up. You kind of walk away, and then there is an appointment of there's an organisation, the accountant in bankruptcy, and they kind of look after like the process afterwards. And an accountant will get sort of appointed as a liquidator for your estate. for what it's worth. But the other side of it, like the collateral damage, is that you've obviously, if the business is owed money, or like, you've got a lease on an office or something like that, you just have to walk, you kind of just have to walk away from it all. You're actually not allowed really to do anything, especially the point where you've done that, that you just have
You're
to
not
walk away.
allowed.
No, because if you still speak to customers or anything like that, because there could still be some value in some of this stuff. We had like a physical server co-located in London, and the hosting company took the server and then actually kind of hacked into it and got a customer list, and they started contact. I mean, the whole super sketchy. They kind of did that. I remember like being furious, but it's not my property anymore. It's got nothing to do with me. It's the accountant in bankruptcy that gets annoyed.
That's crazy. And
the whole thing is bonkers. It's
and
weird,
how are you
weird.
even processing this? So they have this property that's not yours then at that point? Well, from the point you declare bankrupt, everything else that's in this case with that co-hosted space in London belongs to them?
Yeah. So there's an accountant that gets kind of appointed as is to look after all of the stuff that's to get sold, and then all of that gets like when a company is liquidated, gets sent to all the creditors, and then you've got a period. It's changed so much, because it used to be really, really harsh, because it could go on for years and years and years. You have to go through a process before you consider your bankruptcy is discharged, and that means potentially paying a proportion of your wages. It means they're going to look at everything you're doing, you're spending everything, and you have to check in with them every few months. I mean, it's almost like it's
Bad for life.
I mean, it's bad, but it's like you've been convicted of a crime. It's very much like very, very different now. The process is much, much faster. And in Scotland, it was always much harsher for some reason than England. They had a sort of fast track process. But yeah, it's weird. But the thing is, there's that collateral damage. You can't fail, and especially if you go bankrupt or liquidate a company and have everyone happy about the situation. There's going to be some people who you've let down. Badly in some cases, and going to be angry at you.
I think that's the critical point, because there are people who support you because you're you, and when things don't work out, they just never made the investment for sound business logic. And sometimes you can see it in them. It hurts, and it's like, they don't know whether they made the right decision or they didn't, but you kind of feel like indebted to them, regardless of what the reasons for winding up were. And I don't know whether that feeling goes away.
That's one of the really. So this is one of the things about it that's super weird, and it's especially weird actually if you've got a limited company. So if a limited company's wound up, then a lot of people haven't really. They've dealt with you. They've got a relationship with you, and they don't really accept the fact that there's limited liability here. And the whole point of that is that people aren't, personally gonna suffer catastrophic consequences for a business failure. That's the point of the whole system. But a lot of people won't look at it like that at all. You've let them down. They'll say you've lied to them. You've misled them about with the chance of business succeeding. All of this kind of stuff,
And I think it makes it quite difficult to make the decision to stop, because you kind of feel like you need to keep going because if you have to say to someone that's invested that you're not going to try anymore, that's basically you've made a decision to not pay them back effectively. So I think that's so key, that the emotions don't change just because of the structure on paper. And they'll say things like, you're not going to pay me back, and it's like, well, I didn't owe you the money. I know that's like hard, like I don't really like saying that, but I didn't owe you the money. In the case, obviously, if it was a personal business, sole trader, you did actually do that.
And I think you're quite right. It's like, okay, so there's all this emotional stuff going on. You're losing a business which has been your baby and your bread and butter for all this time. Navigating that is interesting. Thank you so much for sharing this really deep issue. On reflection then, because again, I think that's the biggest critical thing, is the balance between thinking you're crazy, you've gone absolutely mad. And Alan, in your case, yours was quite clear. I mean, the customers, the hotels don't exist. The list is not there. Yours is slightly more blurry. And so I just wonder when you make that decision that this is not going anywhere versus sticking there, the win is round the corner. Because I find that there's that very conflicting motivational speech around keep going, keep it going. And there's the reality check of, babe, this is never going to work. You know, how do you, what's your response to that?
So I don't subscribe to the view that anything will never work. I think anything with enough patience, effort, capital will work. But I think the question you have to ask yourself is, you know, based on the skill set I have, the network I have, if you have some capital, is this the best thing I could be doing? So if it's not, in our case, you know, you've spent 3 years trying to sell a really difficult product to sell.
Yes.
You know, when someone asks you, what if you had a more sellable product? It's not to say that you've given up on your original product, but it's to say that, you know, the evolution of your business doesn't stop at the name, because you continue to evolve and learn and improve far after your business. So in many ways, every lesson learned, every relationship forged has actually made me who I am today, and I would not change it.
The journey.
I would not change it. So, you know, we don't just iterate the business, it's the person that iterates and it's the person that gets better. And I think I would invest in me now with much more confidence than I would have then. So in that sense, we're in the next phase of the business, just the next phase looks very different to the previous one.
Yes.
It's not over, which is somewhere else.
That's amazing. That's such an amazing attitude to. And what about you, Alan?
We certainly, the thing is, we've gone through difficult times with Product Forge as well, especially over COVID. We were doing in-person events. We were mainly working in health. And the business has really had to change. And and the business even prior to COVID, it was a struggle, like the day-to-day. I think one of the things is it's quite hard to be honest with yourself. And you always have to put out this sort of bravado that everything's going well, and because people want to do business with you otherwise. If you're talking about, you know, I think it's going to fail. But you need to sort of have an honest check-in with yourself, and ideally having as like a peer group that can help you with that. And really ask yourself, you know, especially if things aren't going to plan, are the things I'm doing now making the situation better or worse? Am I being irresponsible with money in terms of, am I taking on even more borrowing? Am I, you know, accruing bills I'm not going to be able to pay? And it can be hard, because sometimes one of the other difficult things, especially if business is tough, is that I think people sort of look at what you're doing and they're like, you should be, you know, this is not what you should be doing. Like, especially if you're doing events, because it's all happening very publicly, and people sort of look at you and go, you shouldn't be running another event because you're still, you know, I know the company's not going super well, but then how do I make money if I don't organize events? So the thing is, in what we're doing, in the next decision, will the company have less debt? Are we going to be in a stronger position? All of that kind of stuff. And you have to be super honest about it. Am I making the situation better? And it will, I mean, in every company, you're going to reach that, I think, multiple times. You know, there's going to be the startup phase and certainly a scale-up phase, and then you'll go through business transitions like what happened over lockdown. And every single time you're going to run into these periods where things are not going well, the cash flow is all over the place, your runway is down to like a couple of weeks, and what's the right thing to do? Yeah,
that's very interesting, because over lockdown as well, I mean, Manimatics went through just such a big transition, and I just had to make that decision. I had to think about, one, what activities am I going to do going forward, and what are the KPIs, what key performance indicators am I going to have that are going to tell me I'm doing the right thing? And if I don't meet these indicators, then I'm giving myself this amount of time, and I have to, you know, either that move hasn't worked because it was the same. The product was initially geared to young people, so we were focusing the product on offering pocket money management and financial education, and everyone tells you it's a wonderful idea until it's time to part with the cash and pay, and no one's buying. And then you have a product in front of you. You have our business model was schools. Schools are closed over lockdown. You're not going in physically. But I remember the peer group is really, really important. And I remember sitting down with Godwin and him saying to me, just what is it you set out to do? And what are you going to do for the next while that's going to show you you're going in the right direction? And I think you have to have those reflection points. I always worry about myself that I'm extremely passionate about the space I'm in, that I don't even know if I'm likely the type of person that if those KPIs are not met, I'll still be going, that way. So I don't know really, but yeah. Any final reflections? You guys have shared such deep and useful stuff, because I think the ecosystem we're not designed to fail. We're not designed to stop. And it's not really failing, like, you're not failing, but we're not designed to talk about the times when things are not going well. You don't wake up and go on LinkedIn and be like, guys, I wound up today. It's not one of those, hey, and get all these hats, So on reflection, what's been your biggest takeaway from these journeys? I love what you said about you've morphed. You now invest in yourself. That's such a positive way to look at it. But on reflection, what could you have done differently? And would it have made a difference anyway?
Yeah, I think, when you start a company, so in our case, trying to use smart contracts to effectively implement someone's will is a great idea. But the challenge is that in your startup company, it's not really possible to go from zero to a smart contract. The market, the legal system, the frameworks, they're not there yet.
Yes.
And they might not be for some time.
Yes.
And so what tends to happen is you tend to think, okay, fine, so what can I do now? And then you iterate the idea and you change to what's possible. But actually what's possible, had that been presented to you on day one, you would not have been excited about it.
Yes.
So the original idea was great, but as you've adapted and modified it to something realistic, you've actually lost the core attraction. Yes. So I think my advice would be, you've got to be extremely careful about what excited you about what you do today. Is that possible to do? Because if the answer is no, then the other thing you iterate into, does that excite you as much? If the answer is no, then you might need to wait for the right time to launch your product. But if you're able to iterate and remain excited, not because you're excited in the beginning, but because you're excited about what you see now, then go for it. But if not, then,
Yes. And it's really interesting. I have this constant debate about excitement and reality. Probably because I have a preteen, or she's 14, so she really is a teen. And she'll just come up to you and say, I don't feel like doing that. And I'm always like, well, excitement and the reality of what you need to do are two different things. Yeah. So where does that, I don't know, both of you to share on that. It's like, because there is excitement and then there's a need to execute stuff. And sometimes I'm trying to separate the two. So if I'm not excited about the idea, but it makes sense, in my mind, I'm like, well, I should keep going then. I should, when do you...
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're really sort of in the sort of day-to-day grind of things, then it can just suck all of the enjoyment out of what you're doing. I am a bit of a procrastinator, and I kind of find that I go through phases where I'm really just struggling to do all of the stuff I do need to do with being a director running a business. And I think if you've gone into what you're doing because you've got a genuine passion for something, I think one way, because I find I can get locked into a period of time where I feel like I just shouldn't be doing anything unless I'm doing this thing that I really don't want to do. And actually, sometimes R&R could be just like just doing a couple of days on something about the business again that isn't necessary, but you're really, really enjoying, without getting carried away and forgetting that you also need to deal with the accountant and do the bookkeeping and do all of that kind of stuff. But sometimes that can sort of recharge the batteries. I think one of the things as well is like the peer support is super important, and I don't really like talking about like some of the stuff that's happened, but I think it's super important to talk about it, and also kind of proactively, you know, if you're seeing, like try and have conversations like this with other entrepreneurs. I mean, we're very, very fortunate to be in a situation where we're starting businesses and we're doing things like this. Yes. You know, I appreciate how privileged that is. But at the same time, it's incredibly stressful. And everyone's going through their own little kind of personal stress that you're not kind of aware of. So I think, I don't know necessarily, apart from the honesty thing, what the big takeaway is, but certainly be extra understanding when you're speaking to another entrepreneur, and appreciate behind the bravado there could be this nightmare situation going on. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think conversations, I mean, that's one of the key things we keep coming back is money. It's you have to have the conversation, if only to give yourself the reality check that it's not going properly, but having a peer support network helps a million times. Absolutely. Wow, it's been so wonderful, such a great episode. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate this.
Oh, it's good.
And it's been very useful. Thank you to everyone that's listening for joining us. And until the next one, thank you, Kimani and Alan.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Grow Your Money podcast. If you're looking to take actionable steps toward achieving your financial goals, visit moneymatix.com. That is money, MATIX.com. And join our free Grow Your Money Challenge. Let's unite in the movement to inspire people to talk about money. Thank you for being a part of our community. We'll see you in the next episode.